الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وبعد. What's happening to Muslims in Africa should be on the mind of all Muslims, because our brothers and sisters there need our support. Our support that always should include invoking Allah for their benefit, to help them and support them, give them aid, and trying our best to help them during these difficult times. I know that some Muslims are just, reacting in many ways. So if it is this country, it's that country, this country, then this country. But if we talk about Ethiopia today and the burning of the Masjid in Amhara is about 80% Christian. And there has been incidents of trouble, violence between them before. And now, since the war, civil war, that started by the government there with other racial groups, that has killed a huge number of people. We don't even know how many people were killed, expelled, injured, and the destruction to the country, which is one of the poorest countries in the world, with about 100 million people living there, with the resources not being used as they should. And what can we say? It is really a difficult situation for Muslims there. Muslims are about 1/3 of the population in Ethiopia. So living in a traditionally Christian country is always difficult. Now, many times there were no incidents of violence or trouble between them, but many times there are, including now. Who's doing the burning of the Masjid in Ethiopia? Allah knows. But you have to understand that the killing of Muslims there, and then after that the killing of civilians, whether Muslim or not, is crime number one. The Masajid of Allah, they can be rebuilt. The death of a Muslim person or of a civilian cannot be rebuilt. And therefore, as awful as it is to burn the Masajid where Allah is being mentioned, praised and thanked and prayed to, is an awful sin. The killing of a human being is worse. You heard me right, it's worse. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save the Muslims and their Masajid from this violence, from this crime that is rampant now in a country that started civil war against its own self, causing the death and destruction in Ethiopia that is unrivaled. Even if you think about the history of Ethiopia for the past 4 or 5 decades, La ilaha illallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help our Muslim brothers and sisters there. We don't know who's leading these crimes against Muslims in Ethiopia. Killing, destruction of property, expelling, injuring, theft. It's just no limit to the types of crimes that are being committed against our Muslim brothers and sisters in Ethiopia. Now, let's try to do whatever we can to help them. Number one, if we can send some financial help through institutions that we trust, we'll give the money to those who need it. This would be excellent. Making dua, informing each other other Muslims of what's going on is very important. It's very important so that Muslims know what's going on. But it's not only in reaction to Ethiopia, then another country, then another country. Like today, Sudan is going through a much more difficult situation for Muslims there. And the difficulty comes from Muslims fighting Muslims and killing Muslims. You have thousands of people who died in Sudan, hundreds of thousands who were forced to leave their areas, attacking areas like Darfur that had nothing to do with the dispute between the leaders of Sudan on who's going to be the leader of this country that they are destroying. They're destroying the country they want to lead. I mean, why are you gonna be the undisputed ruler over ruins? Ruins? Doesn't make any sense. The killing of Muslims, I mean, during Ramadan, they were shelling civilian areas in Khartoum at a minimum. What kind of Muslim is this? What kind of Muslim who would do that? Eid, they didn't have mercy with the people to even tell them, okay, we're not going to fight each other for a couple of days. What are people going to celebrate there? It's almost total collapse of the government, of the country. And may Allah forbid that might lead to the division of Sudan even more than it has divided in the past few decades. It used to be the largest country in Africa. Now it isn't. And now they're fighting each other. Look what they did in Sudan. So they removed a tyrant, they tell us. They brought other tyrants. What's going on now? So is the problem that Sudan is facing, that has a population of tens of millions of people, one of the poorest countries in the world. They used to have oil. Oil went with South Sudan. And La ilaha illallah. Well, what can I say? So all this population and resources are, if people are fair with each other, inshallah it will suffice for them. But the resources as it is now are very tight, and you're fighting over a country with very tight financial situation, resources, killing, destruction. So they said the tyrant, they removed the tyrant. Okay. Then was their problem the Sharia? The Sharia made you lose South Sudan with the oil resources there? The Sharia? No, it didn't. Sharia didn't do any harm to the Muslims in Sudan if it was carried out as it should. You see? This is a very important if here. So Sharia didn't do Sudan any harm, it did them good. At a minimum, there was no warfare like we have now before in Sudan, when Sharia was at least in some areas being applied. They got rid of Sharia and they established relations with Israel, with the Jews. Now, establishing relations with the Jews is clear. The West kept telling them, Sharia, Sharia, Allah, Sharia, Allah, you know, we're not going to give you money with Sharia, Allah. And, you know, you have to establish relations with the Jews. And they established relations with the Jews. Look what happened. Okay, you got rid of the Sharia, or the Sharia got rid of you. It goes both ways. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. You brought the Jews in. Are you in better situation now? in better conditions? Are you? You're killing each other. Yeah, Muslims. Yeah, Muslims. Over what? If you see the videos with those young people with guns and shooting, and they're happy. They're happy. What are you fighting about? You see, Allah knows best. Keep fighting like this. What are you going to have left to say to the people, we won? Over what? Over who? I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give Muslims the aid and support from His mercy, and to make Muslims aware of these situations. We need to try to help our brothers and sisters as much as we can. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save the Muslims from the banning of Sharia and the bringing in of the Jews, because these two together are major disasters. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.